Marcus sat in his car, the engine barely humming as it idled under the night sky. The weight of his less than honorable discharge felt heavier than the darkness surrounding him. It was a constant reminder of his past, a past that was supposed to be filled with pride and purpose, but instead had become a badge of shame. He thought back to when he first joined the army, filled with dreams of serving his country and making a difference. But now, that dream was shadowed by the stigma that clung to him like a bad smell. Everywhere he turned, doors closed in his face. The Veterans Affairs offices felt like fortresses, guarded against someone like him. Caseworkers looked through him, as if he were invisible, their eyes glazing over whenever they noticed the mark on his record. To them, he was just another statistic, another failed soldier who didn't fit into their neat little boxes. The sense of belonging he once craved had evaporated into thin air, leaving him feeling more alone than ever. As Marcus drove aimlessly, the road stretched out before him like a long tunnel leading nowhere. He watched the light from street lamps flicker by, each one a brief glimpse of hope that quickly vanished into darkness. With every mile he traveled, his money dwindled until there was hardly enough for gas or food. The looming specter of homelessness settled in beside him as he continued down the winding roads. Finally, exhaustion forced him to stop in a small town he'd never seen before. The clock on the dashboard blinked midnight, and only one place showed signs of life: a motorcycle clubhouse at the end of a sleepy road. Its neon lights buzzed softly in the stillness of the night, drawing him in like a moth to flame. He hesitated outside for just a moment. The thoughts racing through his mind echoed fears of rejection and judgment. But hunger gnawed at his stomach more insistently than fear held him back. Pushing open the door felt monumental, the creak of hinges announcing his entrance as he stepped into an unfamiliar world filled with laughter and chatter. Inside, bikers lounged on worn leather couches and gathered around tables strewn with empty bottles and half-eaten plates of food. Their laughter rang out like music amidst an atmosphere thick with camaraderie and stories waiting to be told. Expecting someone to shout at him for intruding or perhaps call attention to his stained past, Marcus braced himself for confrontation. Instead, nobody paid him much mind at all. It was as if he'd walked into their sanctuary without disrupting their peace. The bartender caught sight of Marcus standing awkwardly by the door and poured him a drink without waiting for an order, a gesture both unexpected and kind. "Hey man," came a voice from the back of the room. "You eatin'?" A grizzled man gestured toward an untouched plate piled high with food on a nearby table. Marcus blinked in surprise, but nodded slowly. No one seemed interested in what had brought him here, or why he carried such heavy baggage. They were simply offering hospitality without strings attached, something he hadn't experienced in far too long. As days turned into weeks, and then months, life inside this clubhouse took on new meaning for Marcus. He moved from being an outsider to becoming part of their family, an unspoken bond forming through shared meals and late-night stories exchanged over drinks. No one pressed about his discharge. Rather than judgment, they offered acceptance, which allowed Marcus to slowly shed some of his burdens. He found himself sleeping above the garage where they had cleared out space just for him, his own small corner in this chaotic yet loving environment filled with laughter and understanding faces. He became reliable at serving drinks or helping out with repairs when needed. Each small task made him feel valued again. As time passed, Marcus felt something shift within himself, a growing sense of belonging that warmed his heart against memories that once haunted him at every turn. It amazed him how these rough-around-the-edges strangers had managed to fill cracks he thought would never heal. Looking back now, after nearly a year spent among them, Marcus knew what it meant to turn pain into purpose. It wasn't about where you came from, but how you chose to rebuild your life moving forward, even if it meant opening up your heart again despite all odds stacked against you. And so when someone new walked through those doors one fateful night carrying their own burdens, Much like Marcus once had, he was ready to welcome them inside just as others had done for him so many months ago. Marcus gripped the steering wheel tightly as he navigated the winding roads, his mind a storm of confusion and despair. The vastness of the open highway felt both freeing and suffocating. With every mile he drove, it became clearer that his journey was not just about distance. It was a journey of the soul, a path littered with doubts and fears that clawed at him like thorny vines. The night sky stretched above him, dotted with stars that seemed indifferent to his plight. He watched as they flickered in and out of sight, much like the hopes he once harbored. He had left the army with dreams of making a difference, serving his country with honor. Now, those dreams felt like ghosts haunting him in the rearview mirror, always just out of reach. Each passing town reminded him of what he had lost, a sense of belonging, camaraderie, and the pride that came from wearing the uniform. Stopping for gas became a ritual filled with anxiety. Each time he stepped inside a convenience store, he felt eyes on him. He could almost hear whispers as people looked at him. "There goes another one," they'd think. "Another soldier who couldn't make it." The weight of judgment followed him like a shadow. As his money dwindled, anxiety mixed with desperation began to churn in his stomach. He never thought he would find himself counting coins to decide if he could buy a snack or save for gas, an unthinkable situation for someone who had once worn a uniform with pride. His thoughts spiraled as uncertainty took root in his mind. With every empty bottle rolling under the seat and every quarter dropped into the cup holder, Marcus was reminded again of how far he had fallen. He considered turning back. Perhaps there was still a chance to mend things with his past life. But each time that thought crossed his mind, another voice whispered that there was no home for him anymore, not after what had happened. So instead of turning back, he pressed on into the dark unknown where no one knew his name or story, just as he preferred. Eventually, exhaustion set in. The late-night drive had left him bleary-eyed and weary. So when he spotted lights breaking through the darkness like beacons guiding him homeward, it felt like fate intervening. It was a small town he had never seen before, peaceful yet vibrant with life despite the late hour. A sense of curiosity tugged at him as he drove slowly toward the glow ahead. Pulling into the parking lot of a motorcycle clubhouse felt both reckless and liberating. He parked his car and paused momentarily to gather himself. Uncertainty gnawed at him as shadows danced in the light spilling from within. What would happen if they rejected him? Would anyone notice if he stood alone in a corner? But something inside urged him forward. Hunger mixed with hope stirred in his chest as he pushed through the door. The moment he stepped inside, laughter enveloped him like a warm blanket on a cold night. It was unexpected, filling the air with an energy that cut through some of his isolation, if only for an instant. Bikers adorned in leather jackets filled the room. Their camaraderie drew Marcus in even deeper, but left him wondering if he'd ever belong among them. His heart raced as he shifted awkwardly by the entrance, while waiting for someone to acknowledge him. Some part of him braced for rejection. However, no one seemed to notice his hesitance. They were wrapped up in their conversations and enjoyment. As fate would have it, a bartender approached without pretense or judgment and poured Marcus a drink without waiting for an order, a rare act of kindness given freely at first glance. Soon after came another voice asking about food. Genuine concern radiated from their invitation rather than curiosity about who Marcus was or why he'd arrived there alone. With every passing moment spent inside these walls surrounded by laughter, a sound so foreign to him now, he started to feel lighter than air despite carrying so much pain within. This place offered acceptance without questions attached. This momentary relief lifted some weight off his shoulders. Though uncertainty still lingered around him like smoke from an old fire, Marcus began to feel something shift within, a glimmer of hope where before there had been none. It dawned on him then that perhaps this journey wasn't merely about losing everything. It might also be about finding something anew, friendship, solidarity, and purpose waiting patiently just beyond those doors. Driving away from everything else may have brought loss initially, but maybe here lay unexpected beginnings amidst all this uncertainty. A chance to redefine what it meant to belong somewhere once more, even amidst chaos, in an entirely unfamiliar world around them, all gathered together under these neon lights shining brightly against darkness beyond their reach. As Marcus drove into the small town, the clock on his dashboard blinked ominously, marking the late hour. The darkness felt thick and heavy, pressing in on him from all sides. He had expected to see familiar sights, perhaps a diner open for late-night coffee or a gas station glowing like a lighthouse. But instead, he found only silence and shadows. Just as he began to question if he had made a mistake by stopping here, a flicker of light caught his eye. At the end of the street stood a motorcycle clubhouse, its neon sign buzzing like an electric heartbeat amid the stillness. The warm glow spilling from the windows contrasted sharply with the cold night air, creating an inviting aura that was hard to resist. Yet, as he parked his car and stepped out onto the pavement, Marcus felt a wave of apprehension wash over him. This was no ordinary place. It was filled with people who lived on the fringes, embracing their own kind of freedom that felt both exhilarating and intimidating. With every step toward the entrance, Marcus's heart raced. He viewed himself as an outsider, the man who had worn a uniform but now wore shame instead. As he approached the door, he hesitated, recalling how judgmental others could be. The thought of being rejected again clawed at him like thorns. But hunger gnawed at his stomach more insistently than fear held him back, propelling him forward into the unknown. Pushing open the door felt monumental. The creaking hinges announced his arrival in what seemed like a sanctuary filled with laughter and camaraderie. Inside, bikers lounged in leather jackets and denim vests, their faces illuminated by dim lights overhead that created an intimate atmosphere despite the rough exterior of their surroundings. The air was thick with chatter, stories being shared over drinks, and plates filled with half-eaten food scattered across tables. For a moment, Marcus stood just inside the doorway, taking it all in. The noise wrapped around him like an unexpected embrace. It was a world far removed from what he had known in the military, a place where rules were different, but seemed no less meaningful to those gathered there. Still uncertain about whether he belonged among them, he shifted awkwardly from one foot to another. No one paid him much mind. Laughter continued to echo off the walls as if welcoming him without words. A few heads turned briefly before returning to conversations that flowed easily between friends who had likely known each other for years. Here was acceptance cloaked in leather and tattoos, not judgment wrapped in uniforms and regulations. As Marcus took tentative steps further inside, he noticed details around him. Walls adorned with memorabilia celebrating freedom on two wheels, photographs capturing moments of joy and adventure, and banners displaying club insignias that represented unity among those who chose this lifestyle over conventionality. The bartender caught sight of him standing awkwardly by the door and approached without hesitation, a stark contrast to how others had treated him before. "What'll you have?" she asked with genuine warmth shining through her tough exterior. Just water," Marcus stammered out, unexpectedly aware of how parched his throat felt after hours on the road. Without waiting for confirmation or questions about his past life, questions that always left him feeling exposed, the bartender poured him a glass and slid it across the counter while giving him an encouraging nod. At that moment, someone from deeper within called out casually, "You eatin'?" A grizzled man gestured toward a table piled high with leftover food that remained untouched since dinner. Marcus blinked in surprise, but nodded slowly. Here were people offering hospitality freely without prying into his history or judging where he'd come from. It felt as though they simply wanted to share what they had rather than dissect who he was, and why he found himself there alone. With each passing moment spent surrounded by laughter, The sound growing more familiar than foreign, Marcus started feeling lighter than air despite carrying so much pain within himself still. This place offered respite without conditions attached. It allowed room for healing without expectations weighing heavily on his shoulders. Though uncertainty still lingered around him like smoke swirling from forgotten fires burning low down inside his heart, balancing hope against despair, it dawned on Marcus that perhaps this journey wasn't merely about losing everything he'd once known. Maybe here lay unexpected beginnings amid all this uncertainty. A chance not only to find solace, but also redefine what belonging truly meant even amidst chaos surrounding them, all gathered together under these vibrant neon lights dancing against shadows beyond their reach. As Marcus stood at the threshold of the motorcycle clubhouse, a mix of anticipation and dread swelled within him. The laughter and chatter spilling out from inside felt like a vibrant melody, but it clashed harshly with the doubts echoing in his mind. Just moments before entering, his heart pounded with the expectations of rejection he had grown accustomed to since leaving the army. Every fiber of his being braced for disdain as he stepped through the door into a world so different from what he had known. He half expected someone to shout out, asking him what he was doing there, or even worse, to see the menacing glances of disapproval that had haunted him in past encounters. Instead, the scent of fried food and strong drinks washed over him in a wave, as though offering reassurance instead of judgment. The lively atmosphere enveloped him like a warm blanket, contrasting sharply with the cold fear that had gripped him moments before. Upon entering, Marcus was struck by the sight of bikers congregating, some leaning back on worn leather couches, some perched on bar stools, all engrossed in animated conversation. They appeared completely at ease among one another. It was clear they shared a bond forged through experiences outside society's norms. As he took a hesitant step forward, he noticed a few heads turn toward him momentarily before sliding back into their discussions, not a single person giving him the cold shoulder he feared. Just then, a woman behind the bar caught his eye. Her demeanor radiated warmth. She moved with intention yet familiarity. "What'll you have?" she asked simply. The way she asked without an ounce of judgment made him blink in surprise. It felt like a small act of kindness that shattered the walls he had built around himself over countless failed attempts to reconnect with people after his discharge. Just water," he managed to respond, suddenly aware of how parched his throat felt after hours on the road. The bartender nodded without hesitation, pouring him a glass and sliding it across the counter, as if this were the most natural thing in the world. No questions about why he was alone or where he had come from, just genuine hospitality that felt refreshing against the backdrop of his past experiences. Before Marcus could fully digest this unexpected welcome, a voice rang out from deeper inside the clubhouse. "You eatin'?" A grizzled man gestured towards a table laden with various plates, remnants from earlier conversations. It was an open invitation that made Marcus pause. He hadn't anticipated kindness so freely offered in a place that appeared initially intimidating. Blinking at the invitation, Marcus felt shock replace apprehension. Here were people who didn't seem interested in tracking his history. Instead, they wanted to share something vital, a meal and camaraderie without conditions. It struck him then how disarming it could be to be treated as just another human being rather than another label or statistic bearing the weight of lost honor. As he slowly moved to join this newfound circle of acceptance, the laughter began to unfurl around him, like gentle waves nudging away his trepidation. He found comfort in observing how stories flowed effortlessly between friends sharing tales, while others intentionally created an environment filled with ease and joy, a welcome change from the solitude and shame he'd carried for far too long. He noticed that instead of questioning moments where silence filled gaps as jitters surged within him, instead, laughter stitched connections, drawing forth bonds among those seated around him, who called each other family despite their chosen lifestyles being unconventional to many outsiders. With every hour spent inside this seemingly chaotic sanctuary filled with vibrant life came gradual relief from burdens dragging with each measured step outside their doors previously. Though shadows still lingered in his heart, new light began seeping through cracks once thought permanent, acting as both balm and beacon guiding an uncertain soul toward potential healing. Marcus started to recognize this journey wasn't simply defined by previous losses nor future uncertainties awaiting arrival, but could embody rediscovered hope, the potential for forging lasting friendships free from stale expectations lingering from military days now fading gradually into the background noise amidst laughter swirling vibrantly around them. Emboldened by unexpected kindness, Marcus realized he no longer needed to carry burdens alone. Camaraderie awaited him in abundance, whenever ready to embrace opportunities hidden amid chaos surrounding neon-lit nights dancing against shadows right outside their reach. If only willing to step forth into warmer embraces offered openly within these newly discovered spaces filled with potential connection beyond solitary pathways once tread. As Marcus stood at the bar, clutching the cool glass of water the bartender had poured without hesitation, he felt an unfamiliar warmth spread through him. The drink symbolized more than just hydration. It represented acceptance, a gentle invitation to step away from the shadows of his past and into the light of possibility. For so long, he had walked through life with the weight of his less than honorable discharge hanging over him like a dark cloud, but in this moment, something shifted. The bartender's act of kindness was unexpected, a stark contrast to the countless doors that had closed in his face since he left the army. He had grown used to feeling invisible, often feeling like he was begging for approval or understanding whenever he interacted with others. Yet here, amidst laughter and chatter, no one asked about his past or scrutinized him for his mistakes. Instead, they simply welcomed him as he was, no questions asked. As he took a sip, the cool water slid down his throat, washing away some of the discomfort that had settled in over the years. He watched fellow patrons swap stories and share laughs as if they were old friends. The sight stirred something within him, a yearning to join in, to connect, to be a part of something bigger than himself. While he had always felt alone in his struggle, this place offered a glimpse of what camaraderie might look like without the barriers imposed by judgment. "Hey, you eatin'?" came the voice of a weathered man seated at a nearby table. The openness of the question startled Marcus. It felt genuine and caring, unlike anything he had encountered in a long time. "We've got plenty here if you're hungry." For the first time in what felt like an eternity, Marcus smiled. It was such a simple offer, a plate of food shared among friends, but it was laden with meaning. He wasn't just being offered a meal, he was being invited into their circle. After living with shame for so long, this was a lifeline that tugged at him with promise. Marcus moved toward the table filled with delicious leftovers and vibrant conversations. He grabbed a plate and started dishing out food amidst friendly banter that enveloped him like a warm embrace. With each bite he took, he felt more at ease, slowly shedding the layers of anxiety that had accumulated throughout his journey. Sitting among these bikers, people who lived life outside conventional norms, he began to recognize that they held no judgment against him. They were not interested in his past, but rather eager to share their lives in whatever capacity he wished to engage. Laughter burst forth from different corners of the clubhouse as stories flowed freely from one person to another, weaving a tapestry of experiences that seemed rich and full. Day after day passed in this newfound sanctuary where acceptance reigned supreme. He began forming bonds with those around him, each conversation acting as threads stitching together parts of himself that had been frayed by loneliness and despair. He learned about their adventures on the open road, their struggles and triumphs, and in turn found courage to share pieces of his own story. The bartender became an anchor in this chaotic world. Her presence felt reassuring amidst the raucousness prevalent around them. She would often serve him without needing to ask what he wanted, her smile signaling familiarity that made him feel comfortable enough to unwind. It was as if she saw beyond his exterior and recognized his potential for healing, a guiding light amid turmoil. Slowly but surely, Marcus realized he wasn't just surviving anymore. He was beginning to thrive. Days turned into weeks as he settled into life above the garage they cleared out for him. Each night spent surrounded by laughter and friendship allowed him to reclaim parts of himself thought lost forever amidst echoes of regret. That simple act, those unasked for drinks pouring through welcoming hands, had ignited something fierce and beautiful within him, hope. It transformed his narrative from one defined by loss and shame into one filled with possibilities and new beginnings. As months went by, Marcus found himself stepping into rooms filled with laughter following behind him, while flickering flames danced softly along walls adorned with memories shared openly among friends newly formed, a comfort sewn tightly together, binding streams woven into personal legacies, enduring brightly throughout their journeys, stitched intricately, expressed gently, lifting spirits. And when the time came for him to welcome someone new through those same doors, a stranger burdened with their own tales waiting patiently for acceptance like he once had, he was ready to pour them a drink without asking their story first as well, extending warmth drawn from forgiving hearts, welcoming anyone who dared step inside, uncertain but hopeful, ready, searching belonging anew just as he did once time ago, starting fresh, finally stepping boldly forward, embraced warmly right here amid echoing laughter, dancing behind every flickering light, illuminating one undeniable truth. Everyone deserves love and acceptance regardless where they've been or choices made before entering these vibrant walls filled, joyfully crafted companionship discovered anew, winding paths revealing homes found beneath aired histories, told reassurance bind souls, seeking solace, warming togetherness, residing beneath starry skies, shining bright, reflecting forth compassion, forever changing lives, even transforming doubt, finding comfort through opening doors wide, allowing others seek refuge alongside shared hearts, cherished, reminding every narrative counts, unitedly shown through radiant connections forged amidst life's intricate tapestry, readily awaiting discovery, anew where life sparkles beautifully unencumbered. Differences intertwined lovingly, creating rich harmonious symphony inside welcoming arms, embraced tenderly, until united forever found home right here among kinship, strong built, equally heartfelt, encouraging, illuminated, eternally true, thriving excellently forward, embraced ever more boldly toward advent. Tours yet come, nestled warmly, nestled safely ground, awaiting another journey begun anew, breathing deeply, kindred spirits rise together eternally onward. And when the time came for him to welcome someone new through those same doors, a stranger burdened with their own tales waiting patiently for acceptance like he once had, he was ready to pour them a drink without asking their story first as well, extending warmth drawn from forgiving hearts, welcoming anyone who dared step inside, uncertain but hopeful, ready, searching belonging anew just as he did once time ago, starting fresh, finally stepping boldly forward, embraced warmly right here amid echoing laughter, dancing behind every flickering light, illuminating one undeniable truth. Everyone deserves love and acceptance regardless where they've been or choices made before entering these vibrant walls filled, joyfully crafted companionship discovered anew, winding paths revealing homes found beneath aired histories, told reassurance bind souls, seeking solace, warming togetherness, residing beneath starry skies, shining bright, reflecting forth compassion, forever changing lives, even transforming doubt, finding comfort through opening doors wide, allowing others seek refuge alongside shared hearts, cherished, reminding every narrative counts, unitedly shown through radiant connections forged amidst life's intricate tapestry, readily awaiting discovery, anew where life sparkles beautifully unencumbered. Differences intertwined lovingly, creating rich harmonious symphony inside welcoming arms, embraced tenderly, until united forever found home right here among kinship, strong built, equally heartfelt, encouraging, illuminated, eternally true, thriving excellently forward, embraced ever more boldly toward advent. Tours yet come, nestled warmly, nestled safely ground, awaiting another journey begun anew, breathing deeply, kindred spirits rise together eternally onward. As Marcus settled into the lively atmosphere of the clubhouse, he noticed how the laughter and chatter melded together into a comforting hum. He had spent too long navigating the silence of his own thoughts, and the vibrant energy surrounding him felt almost surreal. Just as he began to relax, a voice rang out from across the room, cutting through the noise with a simple yet profound question. "Hey, you eatin'?" The voice belonged to a weathered man seated at a table filled with plates of food, remnants of shared meals and camaraderie. The words resonated within Marcus. They conveyed genuine care and community in a way he hadn't experienced in a long time. It was as if this stranger was extending a lifeline, inviting him to be part of something bigger than himself, rather than reminding him of the isolation he had felt since leaving the army. Marcus blinked in surprise at the unexpected offer. No, I haven't," he replied, his heart warming at the thought that someone cared enough to check on him. The invitation felt monumental. It wasn't just about food, but also about belonging, a reminder that he was welcome here. "Come on over then," the man insisted with a grin, waving him toward the table. "We've got plenty to share." With cautious excitement bubbling inside him, Marcus made his way to the table. As he took a seat among these welcoming faces, he felt an indescribable sense of relief wash over him. No one asked about his past or pried into his history. Instead, there was an air of acceptance that enveloped him like a warm embrace. He grabbed a plate and began to serve himself from the array of dishes laid out before him: smoked meats, homemade sides, and an assortment of desserts that looked irresistible. As he dished out food onto his plate, Marcus felt something shift within him. This simple act of sharing a meal was grounding and reaffirming. While digging into the food, he listened intently to their conversations. They swapped stories filled with humor and adventure, tales of road trips taken under vast skies, and nights spent around campfires sharing dreams. The sense of togetherness radiating from the group sparked something deep inside Marcus. He yearned for this connection that had eluded him for so long. "First time around here?" another member asked playfully, as they passed around a bottle of hot sauce, encouraging everyone to spice up their plates. "Yeah," Marcus answered between bites. "Just drove in last night." The response elicited nods of understanding from those around him. People who had their own journeys filled with ups and downs, but had found solace together in this shared space. There was something sacred about sitting at that table. It became clear to Marcus that each person present held their own story marred by challenges yet woven together by resilience and compassion. With every laugh shared and every anecdote exchanged, Marcus found layers of tension peeling away from his heart. Slowly but surely, he began to feel more at home among these bikers who embraced life unapologetically on their terms. Their authenticity was refreshing. It felt liberating not to have to hide behind shame or fear anymore. The mysterious voice asking if he had eaten revealed more than just concern for his physical nourishment. It embodied community spirit and care that transcended mere acquaintanceship. Here were people willing to extend warmth without expectations, a chance for him to heal and rebuild connections that would fortify his soul. Days turned into weeks spent in this newfound refuge, where acceptance reigned supreme. Each evening blended seamlessly into the next as Marcus formed bonds with those around him, his laughter mingling effortlessly with theirs, while sharing tales that illuminated their lives. He discovered friendships that blossomed organically amidst mutual respect and understanding. The grizzled man who had offered food initially became one of his closest friends in the clubhouse, a mentor figure sharing wisdom earned on winding roads and through life lessons learned along the way. Their late-night talks echoed through the garage above where he slept. Reflections shared under starlit skies nurtured camaraderie that weathered storms together in life's unpredictable journey. In moments filled with vulnerability exchanged among those gathered together, spilling stories brightly lit by flickering lights overhead, the clubhouse transformed into a sanctuary where burdens lightened, gradually revealing facets often obscured beneath layers built from years spent alone fighting internal battles silently concealed beneath ever-lengthening shadows, ready emerging resilient hearts embracing new beginnings, flourishing deeply cherished love, illuminating glorious paths ahead. As Marcus grew more comfortable within this tight-knit family forged through shared sustenance, both literal and figurative, it dawned on him how powerful community could be in fostering growth while nurturing souls yearning for connection amid chaos reigning outside these vibrant walls, ultimately guiding them all toward brighter tomorrows awaiting discovery beyond horizons imagined previously. The days turned into weeks for Marcus as he settled into the rhythm of life at the motorcycle clubhouse. Each evening brought laughter, food, and stories shared among friends who had embraced him without hesitation. Most importantly for Marcus, there was an absence of heavy questions weighing him down. The conversations flowed freely, and he found it refreshing that no one questioned his past or prodded into details about his discharge from the army. Here, he was not defined by those events. He was simply Marcus. This newfound freedom felt like a revelation. In other places, he had been met with curious gazes and judgmental whispers that faded into silence when he entered a room. The stigma of his discharge loomed large in every interaction, making him feel like a ghost drifting from one conversation to another, unwanted and unrecognized. But inside this clubhouse, he felt seen and appreciated for who he was today, not who he had been, a beautiful contrast that gave him hope. Sitting at the big wooden table surrounded by boisterous laughter and the tantalizing smell of cooking food, he realized how much this community provided more than just acceptance. It gave him the chance to start over without the burden of his past dictating every moment of his life. Each light-hearted exchange reminded him that everyone has a history, some tumultuous, some boring, but what mattered most was how they chose to live in the present. One particular night, after a hearty meal, Marcus shared stories of his own adventures with the group. He felt comfortable talking about his days in the army, not with shame, but with an understanding that it had shaped him, just as it had shaped each of them in their unique ways. They resonated with his tales and recounted their own follies in life, whether on two wheels or paths less traveled. The more they spoke, the more Marcus recognized that vulnerability could blossom into trust and deeper connections. "Man, you can't take life too seriously," laughed Hank, a burly biker who always sat at the head of the table. "I mean, we're all just a bunch of misfits in our own rights." Everyone erupted in laughter while Hank continued. "You gotta embrace your quirks like your favorite leather jacket. Worn and frayed is part of the style." Marcus chuckled at their humor and began to feel lighter. He realized that these people weren't perfect. They were flawed individuals finding solace together through shared experiences. It allowed him to breathe deeply, letting go of the anxiety that had clenched around his heart since leaving behind everything familiar. As time passed, Marcus found this place began to reshape how he viewed himself. His past no longer felt like a ball and chain dragging him down. Instead, it became a backdrop to the rich tapestry of his life, a part of his story that contributed to who he was but didn't have to define him completely. The supportive atmosphere surrounding him encouraged growth. Marcus started participating in group activities, whether it be helping fix bikes in the garage or joining in on late-night poker games. He got to know everyone by name. Faces once unfamiliar turned into steadfast companions sharing both triumphs and struggles alike over the span of countless evenings spent laughing brightly together. With every passing day at the clubhouse came moments that chipped away at old insecurities and remnants of shame he'd carried long before entering those welcoming doors. There was no spotlight shining on every misstep. Instead, there existed camaraderie reminiscent of a family gathering, all shared willingly with love rather than obligation. Reflecting on this evolution filled Marcus with gratitude. He understood that being allowed to live outside the judgments attached to his past molded him into someone more vibrant and open-hearted, a far cry from the isolated individual who had wandered through life riddled with discomfort only seeking approval. On some evenings when he stood amongst this colorful cast sharing stories about life's ups and downs, while sipping drinks under starlit skies brightening horizons stretched courageously wide ahead, listening closely encouraged rediscovered authenticity, growing stronger nurturing bonds bloomed deeply. He resolved silently pledging never again would his history dictate fate-defying growth possibilities shaping paths tender thoughts, rooted present flavors sparked future promising adventures. Beckoning brightly luring gently toward those enticingly drawn toward doorways beckoning from here inspiring resilience, firmly ensconced love compassion, seeking refuge alongside cherished new friends, welcomed glinting eyes bright among myriad constellations shimmering. As opportunities beckett ripe for discovery lived outside closed-door spaces preserving warmth nurtured goodwill spun, tales bringing light illuminating extending hands, offered reaching connecting strangers intertwined upon fortifying bonds. Marcus' heart swelled with hope. A hope that flourished under these loving connections allowing him flourish unconstrained nourished breaking free fully becoming authentically himself destined, soar infinitely bright forever onward illuminated brightly. Brightly glowing light joined boldly alongside others raised treasured intentions fiercely boldly weaving stories reflections crafted woven tales journeys, awaited calling each uniquely unfolding testament blended gracefully spirited soulful legacies traversed transformed wholly ignited radical shifts reshaw. Ping destinies entwining joyfully forever. As opportunities beckett ripe for discovery lived outside closed-door spaces preserving warmth nurtured goodwill spun, tales bringing light illuminating extending hands, offered reaching connecting strangers intertwined upon fortifying bonds. Marcus' heart swelled with hope. A hope that flourished under these loving connections allowing him flourish unconstrained nourished breaking free fully becoming authentically himself destined, soar infinitely bright forever onward illuminated brightly. Brightly glowing light joined boldly alongside others raised treasured intentions fiercely boldly weaving stories reflections crafted woven tales journeys, awaited calling each uniquely unfolding testament blended gracefully spirited soulful legacies traversed transformed wholly ignited radical shifts reshaw. Ping destinies entwining joyfully forever. As the weeks turned into months, Marcus found a sense of stability living above the garage of the motorcycle clubhouse. The small room had been cleared out for him, providing a cozy space filled with nothing but a bed, a couple of boxes for his belongings, and a window that overlooked the bustling activity below. At first, it felt foreign, this new existence where he was no longer just drifting through life, but as time passed, it became a refuge that nurtured his growth. The sound of engines revving and laughter floating up from the main area below became a comforting backdrop to his daily routine. Each morning, sunlight filtered through the window, warming the small space and inviting him to rise. He often woke to the aroma of breakfast wafting up from the kitchen, a welcome change from the nights he spent restless and alone in his car or wandering aimlessly from place to place. The clubhouse buzzed with energy, reminding him that he was part of something alive and vibrant. Marcus began to establish small routines, sharing breakfast with fellow members before they set out on their day's adventures, joining in for late-night talks under starlit skies, or simply lounging around listening to stories told by those who had traveled far and wide. Each shared meal felt like a celebration, a moment where everyone came together not just to eat but to connect deeply over food and fellowship. The camaraderie blossomed as he learned more about each member's unique backgrounds. Hank, with his boisterous laugh and tales of mischief on the road. Sally, who had an uncanny knack for fixing bikes as well as telling jokes. And Curtis, who often offered sage advice while sipping on his drink. They all had scars of their own, some hidden beneath leather jackets, while others were apparent in their stories. But what mattered most was how they embraced those experiences without shame. With every passing day spent among them, Marcus began to feel his own story shift. The burdens he carried, the weight of judgment regarding his military discharge, slowly faded into the background as trust enveloped him like a warm blanket. He realized he didn't need to live under the shadow of his past. Here, no one defined him by it, but instead celebrated who he was becoming. In this nurturing environment, Marcus found himself opening up more than ever before. He began sharing his experiences in the army, not with shame, but with pride in how those moments had shaped him into who he was today. The scars he'd carried transformed into lessons learned rather than marks of failure. The acceptance he received from those around him allowed him to embrace vulnerability without fear. One memorable evening during a gathering beneath twinkling fairy lights strung along the patio area outside, Marcus shared a particularly poignant story about a close friend he lost during service. As he spoke about their time together, the laughter they shared, and the bond forged through hardship, he felt tears prick at his eyes. Yet there was no need to hide. Surrounding him were friends who listened intently without judgment. "Cheers to your brother!" Hank raised his glass high alongside others who echoed similar sentiments filled with sincerity. "We stand by you." The strength that resonated from their words wrapped around Marcus tightly. It made him feel both honored and understood in ways he'd never experienced before. As memories poured out amidst laughter softened by heartfelt embraces shared later among members, gathered close, breathing deeply, warmed alongside flickering light reflecting off countless shared stories, intertwining, creating connections solidified further still. Months passed rapidly, as seasons shifted outside yet remained steady within these walls, where love thrived, immensely nurturing growth, while forging bonds, becoming family, enduringly resilient, steadfastly rising, soaring, freeing, gently lifted spirits, blooming bright, filling hearts, wholly woven together, encouragingly dreamers, seeking brighter futures, unfolding beautifully ahead. By now established, comfortably settled, firmly assured amongst kinship built upon mutual understanding, without burdens defined previous lives, settled gracefully, embracing new identities, crafted effortlessly, blending every encounter, allowing hopes flourish. This journey led Marcus onto paths uncharted yet beckoning brightly toward horizons promising abundant possibilities, awaiting discovery, filled joy, sustaining unwavering faith, nurtured compassion, drawn closely, binding hearts, forever sought refuge amidst these flourishing friendships, kindled deep free flow, igniting fires, blossoming gently, illuminating life's beautiful adventure, renewed purpose sparked brightly, guiding forward now eternally, visible amid glimmers shone across expansive landscapes. Reborn anew, inspired, endlessly shining brightly, traversing limitless avenues, exploring all dreams, gleaming rich eternally onward. As Marcus grew more comfortable in his new life, the friendships he formed within the motorcycle clubhouse deepened, creating a sense of family he had longed for. Each day brought him closer to the other members, and he realized that these connections were becoming the bedrock of his newfound identity. The warmth and camaraderie he experienced filled the void that had lingered since his discharge from the army, replacing isolation with belonging. The clubhouse buzzed with activity, and Marcus eagerly participated in everything from group rides to late-night poker games. He found joy in these shared experiences. Each laugh, each story exchanged strengthened the bonds between them. It was during one of these evenings, gathered around a fire pit with glasses raised high to toast another successful ride, that Marcus felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. "Here's to the open road and the friends we make along the way," Hank proclaimed, his voice booming above the crackling flames. The group erupted in cheers, and Marcus couldn't help but smile, feeling utterly included among them. As he settled into this familial dynamic, he learned more about each member's journey. There was Sally, who had a fierce spirit and a knack for fixing engines. Her laughter often rang out just before she would append expectations with a witty quip. Then there was Curtis, who would often share stories of his travels across the country, each tale filled with lessons learned on winding roads. Every encounter felt like a piece of a puzzle fitting perfectly together, forming a picture of community that enveloped him warmly. One afternoon, while working on bike repairs alongside Sally, Marcus remarked on how much he admired her skills. "You make it look easy," he said, handing her a tool she needed. "It's all about practice," she replied with a grin. "You should try it sometime. You'd be surprised at what you can do." Encouraged by her words, Marcus took her up on the challenge. Over time, he found himself learning how to fix bikes, fumbling at first but gradually gaining confidence as they worked side by side. The shared labor became yet another opportunity for bonding. Their teamwork shone brightly amid laughter and friendly banter. As Marcus engaged more with the group, he began to shed the last remnants of shame tied to his past. He no longer felt compelled to hide behind walls constructed from regret and judgment. Instead, he embraced vulnerability as a source of strength, sharing snippets of his life before joining the clubhouse without fear of scrutiny or rejection. During one particularly poignant evening spent around the table after dinner, Marcus chose to speak about his experiences in service. "It was tough sometimes," he admitted softly but confidently, "but I learned so much about resilience." His honesty opened the door for others to share their own challenges and triumphs. "Man, we've all got scars," Curtis said thoughtfully. "What matters is how we wear them." Those words resonated deeply within Marcus as laughter bubbled up afterward, a testament not only to shared pain, but also to healing found through connection. Each story exchanged forged stronger ties between them, a collective understanding that no one was ever alone in their struggles. In this nurturing environment filled with acceptance and encouragement, Marcus began to visualize a future unfettered by his history, a chance to redefine what family meant within these vibrant walls. The clubhouse became more than just a physical space. It transformed into a sanctuary where he could explore possibilities without fear holding him back. As months passed by like fleeting seconds filled with warmth and love shared unconditionally, a sense of belonging blossomed deeply rooted within him. He realized that these friendships offered solace that went beyond mere companionship. They created an unbreakable bond built upon mutual respect and shared experiences, shaping lives together brightly illuminated under shimmering stars. Each passing moment he spent at the clubhouse reinforced the sentiment that family is not merely defined by blood relations, but rather through connections forged over time. Connections nurtured by kindness wrapped securely among memories, cherished tightly together, always beckoning toward brighter tomorrows, promising joys waiting patiently to be discovered anew. With each heartfelt interaction and joyous celebration marking milestones together, Marcus understood that this journey wasn't solely about him anymore, but also encompassed those who walked beside him, forming paths intertwined, blossoming beautifully, illuminating lives lived authentically, embracing joy freely, welcoming hope radiantly, beckoning, inviting exploration endlessly ahead, marked indelibly strong legacies, woven intricately, tales told filled entirety amongst those gathered here, bound together through collective hearts ever brave, standing united. 1 year after Marcus entered the motorcycle clubhouse, he felt a profound transformation within himself, a metamorphosis that exceeded anything he could have anticipated. No longer was he the man burdened by his past. He had grown into a source of strength and support for others who walked through the same doors he once did. The vibrant community that enveloped him now included the responsibility of welcoming newcomers who were seeking solace from their own struggles. It was a chilly evening when Marcus first noticed the young man standing hesitantly at the entrance of the clubhouse. The flickering lights cast soft shadows on his worn clothing, and the uncertainty in his eyes mirrored Marcus's own apprehension from a year ago. As laughter echoed from inside, Marcus felt an impulse to step forward. This was his moment to give back. "Hey there! Welcome!" Marcus called out, his voice ringing with warmth and sincerity. "Come on in. We've got plenty of food and good company." The newcomer paused, glancing around as if weighing his options before taking a tentative step inside. "Is it all right if I join?" he asked nervously. "Absolutely," Marcus replied with an encouraging smile. "We're all family here." As they moved toward the kitchen area bustling with activity, Marcus felt an overwhelming sense of purpose wash over him. He remembered how welcome those simple words had made him feel when he first stepped into this space. Now it was his turn to extend that same kindness, to create an environment where others could shed their fears and burdens. Once seated at the table filled with hearty food and laughter, Marcus introduced Tom to some of the regulars, Hank, Sally, Curtis, and watched as their infectious energy began to ease Tom's anxiety. They engaged him with casual questions about his journey, deliberately steering clear of any probing inquiries about his past that might evoke discomfort. As dinner progressed, Tom started sharing bits of his story, hesitant at first but slowly becoming more comfortable as laughter erupted around the table. Each shared anecdote lifted not only Tom's spirits, but also reinforced Marcus's belief in the power of connection, the significance of being seen and heard without judgment. Over time, Tom shared more about why he had come seeking refuge, feelings of isolation after returning from a deployment that shook him deeply, experiences that left emotional scars similar to those Marcus had faced himself. In that moment, he recognized not only Tom's vulnerability, but also how far he had come since those early days filled with shame and despair.
"Man,"
Hank interjected with compassion in his voice,
"we've all been through tough times. What matters is how we find our way back together."
Those words resonated profoundly with Marcus. It was a reminder of how important it was to build each other up rather than dwell on past mistakes or regrets tied tightly around identities shaped by circumstances beyond one's control. Days passed as new members entered the clubhouse, seeking comfort amidst uncertain chapters in their lives. Each time someone new arrived, Marcus took it upon himself to greet them warmly, invite them to meals, and include them in activities like bike repairs or poker games, all ways to foster connection within this nurturing environment. He found immense satisfaction in helping others navigate their journeys, just as so many had guided him along his path toward healing and acceptance. It was exhilarating watching every newcomer blossom into confident members over time, watching them laugh freely among friends they never thought existed before stumbling upon this sanctuary they never knew they needed. With each passing month spent welcoming others openly, the clubhouse transformed into a living tapestry woven together by stories, shared experiences, forged friendships, blossoming brightly, illuminating lives richly intertwined, positively impacting everyone involved, inspiring resilience, endlessly cultivating hope, blossoming beautifully, igniting passion, flourishing relentlessly, nurtured continuously. Marcus stood proud amid these connections forged through kindness, a testament not only reflecting growth within himself, but also affirming joy found through giving back, cultivating love, deeply rooted community dedicated, uplifting everyone's spirit, bringing forth strength, dwelling harmoniously alongside vibrant souls, thriving boldly together, venturing ever onward, fellow travelers, ever ready, embrace life fully, live free, unencumbered by fear, stepping boldly towards tomorrow, illuminated brightly, buoyed by collective bonds formed, transcending limits, promising brighter horizons, endlessly opened wide, welcoming hearts, forging paths, interwoven destiny, creating legacies cherished forevermore. As Marcus stood in the warm glow of the motorcycle clubhouse, he reflected on how far he had come since that first hesitant step through the door a year ago. The vibrant atmosphere filled with laughter and stories shared among friends had become his lifeline, a stark contrast to the loneliness and despair he once felt. His journey through acceptance and community had not only transformed his own life, but had also equipped him with the tools to help others who found themselves lost or abandoned. It was a chilly evening when he noticed the familiar look of uncertainty on a new face at the entrance. A young man named Jake stood hesitantly, looking as if he were weighing his options. Marcus remembered his own arrival, the fear of rejection, and feelings of invisibility that accompanied him. Now, it was his turn to extend a hand of friendship.
"Hey there! Welcome!"
Marcus called out, stepping forward with a warm smile.
"Come on in. We've got food and good company."
Jake seemed to relax slightly at the invitation, stepping inside as Marcus gestured for him to join the group gathered around the kitchen table. The bustling atmosphere, filled with chatter and laughter, wrapped around them like a comforting embrace. As they settled down, Marcus introduced Jake to the others, Hank, Sally, and Curtis, all eager to welcome him into their fold without question or judgment.
"What's your story?"
Hank asked, his eyes sparkling with genuine interest. Marcus watched as Jake hesitated before speaking, clearly nervous about sharing his past. But in this space, where vulnerability was met with compassion, Marcus offered silent encouragement. He knew firsthand how liberating it could be to share burdens among friends who understood. With each passing moment, Jake began to open up about his struggles, how he had recently returned from a deployment feeling lost and disconnected from those around him. The weight of expectation and the stigma associated with mental health issues hung heavily over him, just as it had for Marcus once.
"It's hard to feel like you belong anywhere,"
Jake admitted quietly. Marcus nodded empathetically.
"I know that feeling all too well,"
he said.
"But here, you don't have to carry it alone."
The camaraderie blossomed as they shared stories throughout the night, each tale weaving deeper connections among them. With every laugh exchanged and every painful memory disclosed, barriers began to dissolve. An unspoken understanding blossomed between them. As weeks passed, Marcus continued to embrace his role in fostering acceptance within the clubhouse. He made it a point to reach out to newcomers like Jake, welcoming them warmly and inviting them into shared activities. Whether it was fixing bikes together or participating in game nights filled with laughter, each interaction reinforced a sense of belonging that had previously escaped him. He also found comfort in leading discussions around personal growth, often encouraging others to share their experiences openly without fear of judgment. It became apparent that this space was not just about riding motorcycles. It was about riding through life together, where everyone could support one another through challenges they faced. One evening after dinner, surrounded by flickering candlelight and the soothing sounds of the crackling fire pit outside, Marcus took a moment to reflect on how acceptance had transformed both him and those around him. He looked around at the faces illuminated by warm light, friends who had become family, and understood that their collective strength lay in their willingness to offer support at moments when it mattered most.
"Here's to us!"
Marcus raised his glass high, prompting cheers from everyone gathered nearby.
"To finding strength in our community and lifting each other up."
That night marked more than just another gathering. It was a celebration of resilience born from shared understanding, a powerful reminder of how kindness can heal wounds invisible yet deep-seated within many hearts. The clubhouse thrived not just as a physical space, but as an embodiment of hope, a testament to what acceptance can achieve when individuals choose compassion over judgment. As Marcus continued his journey within this vibrant community, he recognized that this cycle of acceptance would never end. New faces would always arise seeking refuge from their struggles just as he once did. And he would be there, ready to welcome them with open arms, reminding them that they were not alone in their fight against despair or feelings of abandonment. Through this experience, Marcus learned that true community means standing together through thick and thin. It means recognizing that everyone carries their own scars yet deserves love regardless of what they face before stepping through those doors. It was this understanding that fueled his passion for helping others navigate their journeys, knowing firsthand how transformative acceptance can be for those who feel lost or abandoned in the world. In choosing connection over isolation, Marcus found purpose anew in every interaction, a beautiful reminder that no one is ever truly alone when surrounded by those willing to walk alongside them through life's winding roads.